In this video, we are going to take a solved example which is dealing with this shortest remaining time scheduling algorithm. So here we are given the arrival times and the execution times for these four processes, and we have to find out the total waiting time for process P2. So we start with making a Gantt chart. So what is this algorithm, this SRT algorithm, and what is a Gantt chart? You can check my earlier video for this. So at time 0, there is only one process which is in the system, and that is process P1. So P1 will start running. So at time 0, P1 starts executing, and it will execute till time 15 when process P2 arrives in the system. Now till time 15, P1 has already executed 15 time units, so only 5 time units are left for P1. And now if you compare the execution time required for P2, which is 25 and 5, so going by this SRT algorithm, whichever one is having the shortest remaining time, that will be scheduled. So since P1 is having the shortest remaining time, so P1 continues its execution. P1 is scheduled again and it executes for 5 more time units, and now it has finished its execution, so it is out of the system. Now at time 20, P2 will start running. P2 will be given the CPU and it starts running, and it will run till time unit 30 when P3 arrives in the system. So since P3 has arrived, now the scheduler needs to check which process will be given the CPU. Now in this 10 time units, P2 has finished 10 units of execution, so 15 units of execution are left. If we compare this time with the time of P3, then going by the SRT algorithm, P3 will be given the CPU first. So P3 starts executing at time 30 and it finishes at 40. So it has finished its 10 time units at 40. So again P3 has gone out of the system. Now at this point at time 30, which was when P3 had arrived and P3 was scheduled, P3 has run till 40. So till time 40, now there is only one process which is available, which is process P2, and only 15 time units of this process are left. So P2 starts executing again. It has run for 5 time units. So at 45, which is now when process P4 is arriving in the system, but since P2 has finished executing 5 more, so only 10 time units are left for this. So comparing the time for P2 and P4, P2 will still keep on continuing executing, so it will execute till 55, and this is the time when P2 is also gone out of the system. It has executed and now the CPU will be given to P4. So what is the total waiting time for process P2? This is what we are supposed to find out. So process P2 was given the CPU at time unit 20, whereas it had come at, its arrival time was 15. So 15 when it came over here and it waited for 5 time units over here. So this 5. Then when P3 was running, again P2 was waiting for 10 time units over here. So again 10 time units it waited over there. After that P2 finished its completion and there was no waiting time after that. So we can say that the total waiting time for process P2 is 15 time units. Now we're going to take another example. So we have 3 CPU intensive processes which require 10, 20 and 30 time units, and they arrive at time 0, 2 and 6 respectively. So we have these 3 processes, P1, P2, P3. Their execution times are given here and their arrival times are also given over here. And how many context switches are needed if the OS implements the shortest remaining time first algorithm? So, and do not count the context switches at time 0 and at the end. So this is what we have to find out now. So let's start at time 0 and we will prepare the Gantt chart again. At time 0, there is only process P1, its execution time is 10. So it starts running and it has only run till 2 time units when process P2 arrives. In 2 time units, P1 has run for 2 time units, so only 8 are remaining. If we compare it with the execution time of P2, so obviously we can see that P1 has the shortest remaining time, so P1 continues. Now at 6 again P3 has arrived. So till this time P1 has run for 4 more time units, so only 4 are remaining. Now again if we compare for P1, P2 and P3, again we see that P1 has the shortest remaining time, so P1 continues again for 4 more time units and it completes its execution at time unit 10, so it is out of the system. And now only P2 and P3 are remaining. If we compare these two, then we see that the execution time of P2 is less than that of P3. So P2 will run for 20 time units and it will complete at 30. So P2 is again out of the system, and then P3 will run from 30 to 60 and finish its execution. So if we see the number of context switches, and obviously they have written that do not count the context switch at time 0 and at the end. So if we see that there was a context switch over here when the CPU was given from process P1 to process P2, and then a context switch over here when the CPU was given from process P2 because P2 has finished its execution to process P3. So we see that there are total number of 2 context switches.